Watching anime changed my life. Yeah, that's a pretty big statement to make, but it's not like I was Gojo tripping balls after learning reverse curse technique. I only recently realized just how much I've changed since I watched my first real anime 6 years ago. And 6 years ago was 2020. 6 years. It kind of feels like I got hit with the unlimited void and the last 6 years just got downloaded into my brain all of a sudden. And it's only now that I'm realizing just how much I've actually accomplished or haven't accomplished. I graduated high school, went on a trip around the world that got cut short because of the pandemic, went to college, graduated college, and now I'm living with my parents, trying to figure out my future, trying to write books, and wanting to go get my master's to teach English. Now I live by the grace and kindness of said parents, and they have every right to kick me out at any point given time. Sorry, Megumi, I'm the actual bum for real. Lobotomy Kaizen aside, yes, I am one of those anime people who joined the anime bandwagon in 2020. Granted, it was a good friend of mine who forced me to sit down with him because he was bored, I was bored, he knew I hadn't watched anime, and he said, hey, you're gonna watch with me because you've got nothing else to do and I know it. And I said, sure, I'll watch with you. And it's kind of embarrassing to admit, but until I watched Steins Gate, and yes, Steins Gate is what I consider my first real anime, I thought all anime were about as gory as Attack on Titan or as ecchi as High School DxD. And no, I haven't actually seen either of those shows. Flame me all you want. I'll get around to them eventually. I mean, come on. Up until that moment, I had a pretty prejudiced view of anime because I knew this guy in high school who would come to school every other freaking day with an Ahegao sweater. Who does that? Why would you do that? Don't do that. I mean, I'm a huge weeb now, and, you know, I kinda get it, but... And that pretty much turned me away from anime and manga and all of that completely, because I was kind of open to the idea in middle school, but that was just crazy. In hindsight, watching Steins Gate was a really easy hook for me. I mean, I'm a huge time travel nerd. Like, I used to love watching Doctor Who. I basically seen every piece of media, every odd episode, every short story, novel that has to deal with time travel or anything to do with time. And it says a lot that basically my favorite movie of all time is Interstellar by Christopher Nolan. This little maneuver of pivoting from mostly Western media that I consumed my entire life to anime and manga and light novels didn't cost me 51 years. It did make me realize just how much I had been missing out. Of course, I watched those same shows that everyone that was a kid in the early 2000s probably watched. You know, things like Pokemon, Naruto, Dragon Ball whenever I would catch an episode, and the gauntlet of Studio Ghibli movies like Spirited Away and Ponyo. I even somehow got into the show called Zatch Bell, which is kind of crazy because the name is basically all I can remember from that show. And boy oh boy do I remember the days when the only way a young and inexperienced web surfer like 6-year-old me could watch those episodes was by finding the 40 parts of that episode split into 30-second chunks with mirrored video that didn't even take up the full 480p frame and audio that sounds like it's being drowned in a bathtub. Okay, yeah, maybe I do like to look back at those early times and wonder if I'm something of an OG anime enjoyer myself, but really, I don't think it counts. I mean, I was a kid who thought these were cartoons that were equivalent to things like Looney Tunes and SpongeBob and thought nothing else of them. And I know that sounds like a wild take, so believe me when I say that when I watched Steins Gate for the first time, it felt like I had finally stepped into the world line that was really meant for me. I already feel like an old man sometimes, but realizing how long I went without watching good shows, good stories like Steins Gate, made me feel like Danny DeVito in that one meme where he says, oh my god, I get it. For my whole life, I'd been focused on stories that were made and produced for English audiences. Yeah, there was the occasional K-drama that my sister would rope me into watching, or the occasional show that my friends in high school would pressure me into. But I was a stubborn teenager, and I couldn't be bothered. With the way my life has panned out, this was clearly the worst decision I ever made, because anime really did change my life. Without anime, I wouldn't have fully locked in on wanting to write books and stories. I wouldn't have been able to meet some of the best friends I've made in years. I wouldn't have been able to reconnect with and find even more common ground with some of my high school friends. I wouldn't have started buying physical books, manga, and putting them on a shelf. I wouldn't have found my love for shiny cardboard and trading cards. And I wouldn't have finally pulled the trigger on wanting to build the dream PC I'd always dreamed of building. And yes, I have a free-run PC that I built from scratch. And yes, I have Hatsune Miku hiding in my Wi-Fi. Or to be more precise, hiding in my motherboard. She's haunting me. But seriously, without anime, I wouldn't be the person I am today. I wouldn't have found my love for slow fantasy like Frieren that had hidden depth and meaning in every episode, in every frame, in every panel. Or shows like Bocchi the Rock that covered insecurities in a funny but relatable way. I definitely wouldn't have found what is quite possibly my favorite comfort watch of all time in Bofuri, I Don't Want to Get Hurt, so I'll max out my defense. And yes, that is a really long title, but it is hilarious to see Maple break a video game in half with her bare hands. I wouldn't have cried watching A Silent Voice in theaters. I wouldn't have been wowed by the story and direction of Suzume, and I definitely wouldn't have been able to see Chainsaw Man ReZe movie twice in theaters and be betrayed both times by Tatsuki Fujimoto because he can't decide if he wants to kill ReZe and serve her up like a shish kebab to Makima or to give her a happy ending with Denji. Come on, man. Why are you like this? And then, of course, there's the whole rabbit hole that I fell into of visual novels. So let's not get into that, because if I start talking about Fate, well, it's Fate. But to put it simply, I had no idea who Saber was, and the moment I found out, I was kind of like Gordon Ramsay finally finding some good food, and I just kind of held my head and went, what the fuck? The lesson here is, if you want to get into Fate, you better be prepared for your life to end, because to be a mage is to walk with death. I will be honest. Sometimes the imposter syndrome does kick in, where I wonder if I'm a real anime fan because I haven't seen the top 100 anime of these anime aggregator sites. But to that, I say this: it's okay. I'll catch up eventually. Even if I don't, there will always be someone who is willing to talk about it or explain it to me, and I think that's great. And that's why I think it's okay that I've only seen the first episode of Attack on Titan when I was 15, because I will have friends who will just rant about the rumbling for 15 hours straight, and I have friends who will explain to me the entirety of the plot of Bleach while I'm on a road trip to California. I think that enjoying anime can take a lot of forms, and that doesn't mean having to be caught up with all the popular shows that everyone has seen. I mean, I'm a guy who got into anime recently, if you can count 6 years ago as recent, and I take that in stride. A lot of the shows that I watch and have seen personally are those anime that have come out every year in each season, and I get to pick and choose what I want to watch because, you know, that's what's out, that's what's new, and that's what I know. There was even this period of time when I was reading light novels, and whenever I finished a series, or at least caught up to the series at the time, the anime adaptation got announced soon after. Two of those series that I like to think about is The Angel Next Door Spoils Me Rotten and Tear Moon Empire. Personally, I think The Angel Next Door Spoils Me Rotten was a great adaptation, even if it skipped over a few things, but Tear Moon Empire is like my favorite light novel series of all time, and the anime just didn't cut it out for me. Or maybe I'm just spoiled for good adaptations because we have shows like, again, Frieren, Bocchi the Rock, Chainsaw Man, Apothecary Diaries. All that to say that enjoying anime, or Japanese media in general, is something that can be unique to each of us. And the way I've enjoyed my free time is just by having fun watching it and talking to my friends about it. And with the widespread phenomenon of anime becoming huge, mainstream, there's no shortage of people on the internet to get into arguments with or to have your opinions validated with. So I think that's pretty cool. And flame me all you want for not wanting to watch those old shows, but like when I see hundreds upon hundreds of episodes and realizing that I have to sift through them to find out what is filler and what isn't, and even though there's guides and people who've already done the work, I feel like that's still too many steps to take just to enjoy, sit down and watch a show. And honestly, I just don't get those people who say like, throw on an episode of One Piece in the background, you'll get through it eventually. Why would you say that? Is that how I'm supposed to enjoy the show? To relegate it to the background as something that's only worth paying attention to if something interesting happens? Isn't that disrespectful to Oda Sensei who wrote the manga? I feel like even though I haven't seen it, I still feel like you should just tell it to me straight. It's gonna take a long time, but it's worth it. But just watch it. And while I still haven't gotten around to it, I've got friends who've explained to me several of the arcs, and I've learned enough about it that I'm interested. I think that's good enough. At the very least, I think the live action One Piece was great. I did watch that, and it was a good show. But if you can spend even 1 minute enjoying an anime, I think that's great. Avoid the dumpster fire anime, of course. You'll have to, you'll know when you see it. But I think it's also safe to start with an anime that is in a genre that you like. I like time travel, I started with time travel. But don't be afraid to branch out. Case in point, I didn't realize how much I actually loved rom-coms until I watched shows like Kaguya Love is War and Horimiya. And I'm where I am today because of that. No thanks to all of my friends who have corrupted me in various other ways beyond belief. Basically, watch anime. It'll be a good time. And that's all I really have to say. So, my humble viewers, what's your story? How did you get into anime, and what genres of anime do you like to watch? What's your favorite anime? Comment down below if you so dare, but no pressure. Rhetorical questions are cool too. Honestly, I'm surprised that you've watched this long, but if you do end up commenting, make sure to mention that Rent a Girlfriend is bad. Very, very bad somewhere in your comment. Even if you like it, for whatever reason. Ruka is best girl purely from a design standpoint, by the way, and I will die on this hill. I mean, you cannot tell me that this is not peak anime girl design.